You're not going to flip something overnight and just build something in 2 days. Like there's a persona out there. Hey, build something in a week, put it out there. I don't believe in that model. I believe you still have to put in a lot of work to even on Bubble, something like Bubble, to get an actual product out to the market.
What was the time frame from idea to sale? Because I feel like you did it in such a compressed time period. Even with you saying that, I feel like you did it in
Right.
a short time.
Yeah, yeah. So 6 months, 6 months essentially.
From idea
So
to sale.
and slightly longer because I spent a little time before. So I launched in January. I started building probably in February of 2021. Got it to where I felt comfortable enough. It was still coined as a MVP or a beta, whatever you want to call it, and launched in January, and then got acquired this past month. So we've been going through that whole handoff phase for the past 3 or 4 weeks with Ramjet. I can say his name now.
Yeah.
Dude is fantastic. And we could get into more of the acquisition stuff in a little while, but yeah, it was 6 months, and I'll tell anybody that may be listening right now on the stream is that a lot of that time was spent on just marketing, not necessarily building. Most of it was marketing. So if this is something you're looking to do, be prepared to put that hat on, because you're not going to do well if you don't put yourself out there and start marketing it.
Talk to me about what you mean by marketing, because I think a lot of people have this concept like I'm going to need to market my app, but it doesn't always mean what people think, like paid ads on Facebook. You know what I mean? Say marketing. How do you mean that?
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. I didn't do any of the traditional stuff that you would maybe think of, like Google Ads or AdWords or whatever. I didn't do any paid advertisement. All my stuff was built in public. Obviously, I have a very focused niche on Twitter. That's where my audience is, and many people will tell you this. Maybe even KP talked about this, but you need to be where your audience is, right? If I was to go and try to build a SaaS and go like break into, like, I don't know, the plumbing space or something like that, it just wouldn't be easy for me, because I don't know anybody in that space. I don't know where plumbers hang out, and I'm just using that as a random thing, but I don't know where any of those people are. So when I say marketing, I'm probably talking more about building public, because I think they intertwine, obviously. But what I struggle with is I'm not a marketer. I'm not a salesperson. I by no means do that. And I just made the conscious decision when I build Atomic Fusion that I'm not going to be afraid to put myself out there. When I say put myself out there, I mean on Twitter. I'm not going to be afraid to put visuals out there. I'm not going to be afraid to just say random things to get people's attention. You got to have thick skin, man. When marketers need tip of the hat. Like it's so hard. It's the hardest thing. And I think most would agree with that. Building is the easy part. Marketing is the hardest part. But I just went full throttle. And when I say marketing, I mean talking to people. I probably did the first couple of months, John, I probably did 4 Zoom sessions a day for 2 months straight, almost.
With just potential users, right?
Just some users, and then other builders, just kind of validating certain features. Being in the Slack group, I spent a lot of time in the Slack group. It's just, I look at marketing as talking to people, making your product known out on the market, and whatever fits for you. People do different things. Different people have different personality styles and stuff. So I'm probably a lot different than you are, and many of the viewers here. They would take a more methodological, but I don't know, tongue twister here. They would take probably more like straight path on the marketing approach. Like, let's go get the AdWords. Let's do email marketing. Let's do all this stuff. And I did some of the email marketing and things like that, but after I had a following, after I had people onboarded to the product. Most of my marketing is just building public. It's just showing people what I'm building, and I'll die by it. I think building public is the coolest thing, and what I think building public is basically a free get out of jail card for free card to just say whatever you want and just fly under that radar, right? So think of it as beta. When you launch a beta, what are you telling people? Oh, this is probably broke, or an MVP. There's going to be bugs. I think of building public as the same thing. I think of it as, okay, while I'm building in public, I'm showing my product to people, but I can still, I don't have to be perfect. People know I'm building this. They know it's an MVP. So it gives you the free will to just test different theories out. And people are like, oh, he's just building in public. This is cool. I like what I see here. You're not held to any fire.
And I would say to those, for anyone who's out there too that wants to ask the question, Neil, throw it in the chat. I'm looking at that. But I would say too that if you are worried about putting something out there and like you're worried about the way it looks or the feature set that it has, you're thinking of yourself as way more important than you really are. You know what I mean? Like you should. No one cares that much. If you throw out something that's shitty or a bad idea, whatever, what's probably going to happen is you're just not going to get a reaction. That happens more time than no. We hate John because he said this wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like you're not on the forefront of everybody's mind like that. And that's something that I had to kind of like flip the script on. It's like, no one cares what I'm doing. I care what I'm doing. But
exactly.
To which I can put it out there. And if I do start getting some kind of like reaction, whether positive or negative, at least I'll know that I'm onto something, as opposed to building in silo, which is, I want to say, is what 95% of the builders do. Again, myself included in this, is that you just build and then hope to find users after the build is already done. These things are intermingled, right? And you've even proven that with the fact that you've been on 4 Zoom meetings a day. I think you even said before you started building, right?
Right, yeah. And I'll add to that. Let me add to that a little bit, John. So anybody that's watching this, that's looking to build in public, you got to have tough skin. Like you can't. Twitter's pretty easy. Most people, especially if you're in no code, people are very welcoming and very supportive. But if you go throw some of this stuff out that you may put on Twitter to like a Hacker News or something, you could get railed pretty good. You know what I mean? So you have to have thick skin, and you also have to know this is a big key to it, is you have to know what feedback you're getting from these individuals that is just trolls and people just looking to pick fights. Because I trust me, I came across my share of trolls, right? And it's like, you got to know how to differentiate between the trolls and the people giving you legitimate feedback. And the people, you'll be able to pretty easily distinguish, because the troll type people are going to constantly just sit there and find the negative constantly and just kind of poke at you with it. And then I just move on. And then, you'll get legitimate feedback from, like, man, I was so grateful to have people like JJ. If you guys are familiar with like JJ, another friend of mine, Mark, I just had a handful of people that gave me very methodical feedback that comes from a builder perspective and somebody that's already been through the public kind of build or actually shipped and launched something. So, I just say this, just because you put something out there and somebody gives you a negative response, who cares? Screw them. It doesn't matter. Just move on, keep building.
What was some of the more aggressive feedback that you got from the trolls? Like, what were they saying to fuck with you?
Dude, man, I don't even know. I mean, there was some crazy shit, like, whatever, man, what the fuck are you building? This is stupid. Why are you doing this? Bubble's gonna build this. Why are you doing this? Made with Frames is already doing this. Come on, man. And I didn't get a lot of that. Most people were very supportive of the project, and most people adopted it, and a lot of them converted to paid users.
Kind of already, like you were having those Zoom meetings, you were putting out, what you were doing and where you were in the process on Twitter. Like, was it a surprise when people signed up, or you're like, I already know all these people and they told me what they want, so when I actually enable them to sign up, it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna be like, I hope it's not a Hail Mary to let's see who signs up on this launch day. You were kind of confident of that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I did. I built up the build in public, and like, I built up some confidence that when I did flip the switch to open it up, that there were going to be, a handful, if not more, just signups. And just because I already had commitments from people saying, yes, I absolutely want to try this out and use it. And I get it. Some people just say that. Some people just go, oh, this looks cool, man. Can't wait to sign up. And then boom, you never see them again. Right. But I had deep organic conversations with, you know, 30 to 50 people that I knew were going to sign. I had a good idea that they would sign up. But it was crazy, man. When I opened the doors, I got probably 300 signups in like 2 days.
That's sick.
And yeah, and it was, they were free signups, but without building public, that would have never happened. So I have to think that even though maybe people were not commenting on anything that I was putting in my Twitter feeds or anything like that, that it was being seen. So because I didn't talk to 300 people, I don't even remember responding or seeing 300 responses on Twitter. So the other thing is I leveraged the bubble forum a little bit, right? So I threw some stuff out there as well, and I got some traffic from there. Obviously, I was tracking the traffic on Plausible, but yeah, man, those first initial users, I was like, oh shit, I think I'm onto something. And that's when it got real, right? And I almost feel, John, like I put too much time into it. I wish I would have launched a little sooner, but for some reason my mind just told me, hey, let's just do January 1 just to make it a nice clean at the beginning of the year. Everybody's kind of done with Christmas and all that stuff. So, but I was shocked. I was actually a little surprised at how many I got right out the gate. And then, to go further down the user growth path, it was just a constant, like consistent grind. That's where I was mentioning at the beginning of this. You have to be consistent. You have to be, regularly putting stuff out there for you to be relevant and stay in people's mind. Obviously, what you're building matters. Like you have to still build shit people want. I mean, it's something they need or they could use that gives them value. People are buying, people are not signing up just to like make you happy. It needs to be worth their time. So, as time went on with the 6 months before I sold, organic stuff just started coming in. And I, by no means, I'm not an SEO guy. Like I did not like start focusing on SEO. Bubble is not the best at SEO. I think we all know that. I didn't write any blogs. I didn't do any of that stuff. I just happened to start I was in the right niche with the right audience at the right time, and people just started coming in organically. Even when I petered off from actually engaging, when I started the acquisition process, I was starting to get more signups. And this may be a little bit of a hack that I'll throw out there for you guys, a little growth hack. But towards the end, right before I Ramjet acquired Atomic Fusion, when I listed on MicroAcquire, I started getting like crazy signups. So, side note, maybe list your shit on MicroAcquire, even though you're not gonna actually sell. And I think MicroAcquire started driving some traffic, and I think some interest, actually, maybe not necessarily just the traffic, but it gauged some interest from people that weren't in my niche, not in my spot, because there's all sorts of buyers on MicroAcquire and different types of people. And I think they were clicking on the project and they were signing up and testing it. And then some actually converted and started using it. So that's when it gets really cool, honestly, is when
That's a cool hack.
people you don't know sign up and buy.
I got a comment here from Evan Dubs. I'm worried that AF will not thrive since your exit. The buyer doesn't have any sort of Twitter presence. Is that a concern for you at all, Neil, with Ranjit?
No, absolutely. That Ranjet, yeah. And I think he may be on here actually too, but Ranjit, yeah. No, absolutely. I've gotten this comment. Very good question. I've gotten this question probably 10 times just through Slack and Twitter and stuff. My gut feeling, and from what I know with Ranjet and the person that acquired it, when I sold Atomic Fusion, I was looking for specific people. Like this was kind of my baby, right? I did not want to it wasn't just like about money, because I didn't and I'll be transparent, I didn't sell for like a life-changing amount of money or anything like that. I wanted it to go to somebody that I knew could drive the product further than me. And as most of you know, I have a full-time job. I'm doing this on the side. I'm a CIO during the day. So I run a staff of 12 people for a mid-cap company. I didn't have all the time in the world. I'm fortunate enough to have a schedule flexible enough to be able to do some of this still during the day, but not all the time. So back to the question, no, please don't be concerned, because I've thoroughly, I guess you could say, vetted the buyer, and Ranjet is fully engaged. He's been a bubble developer for years. He does freelance work, and he has some consistent contracts, I think, with some people. And he's looking to get out of that space and into the SaaS space. And this was a way for him to expedite that and get him going. No, he doesn't have a Twitter presence right now. I don't think he was even on Twitter when we first started talking. He is there now, and he has now since gained a handful of followers over the past couple of days, as I announced who the new owner is. But he's got some ideas that I wasn't even thinking of. I mean, he's talking about marketing this more. He's talking about growing it. He's talking about doing blog content, engaging with the users, getting their feedback, and building. We've already talked about some features that we may co-build together. You know, people want styles, to be able to copy and paste styles and save their styles to use in their apps. And long story short, I know I'm getting winded here, but don't be concerned. Like, I'm not just disappearing. I'm going to make sure that this properly gets handed off to the buyer, make sure Ranjet is successful, because when you sell something, you want that person, you want that buyer to be successful, because if they're not successful, then you just sold them a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I don't want that.
You're not in the mentality of just like, oh, wow, got it, sold. No, you're still in the process. You still very much care about what Atomic Fusion turns into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not washing my hands. Like, it's I'm putting my time in basically for free now to help Ranjet get this thing reignited, because there was about a month or two, maybe 2 months, that I just petered off during the whole sell process and didn't engage, because I didn't want to give people a sense of things were actually being built when they weren't. So I'm very honest with my user base, and to get it over to Ranjet, I think he's already kicked out a newsletter and helping people transition over to his new Stripe billing and stuff like that. So I feel very good about Ranjet, and he's very competent. I can tell you that much. He's probably more so competent on building than I am.
At what influenced your decision to actually sell? Because you did have the following, you were posting regularly, you were building all this in public, the user reaction was obviously positive. At what point were you like, all right, I think this is where I'm going to take, not step away, but at least let someone else drive the ship as this thing progresses?
Yeah, sure, man. It was a difficult decision. Like, there was times where I actually listed once, and then I tore it down. Like, I tore the listing down because I changed my mind. I was like, man, I can't do it. I had so many people saying, man, why are you listing, man? This has so much potential. And so many people just lifted me up, like, hey man, so much potential here. Keep going. Don't sell now. Don't exit. But at the point that I said, hey, I got to do this, is when, one, my family time started getting strained a little bit, because I was doing a lot of this on nights and weekends, right? And then I have my full-time job during the day, which, can be anywhere from 30 hours to 60 hours a week. And so it just got to a point where it's just too much for me to devote the time to get the product to where the user base wanted it. So I said to myself, I said, okay, I either got to go full time on this thing, right? So I either need to just quit my day job and go full time, which it's not to the point. I'm not to the point in my life where I can just quit my daytime job. And then two, or I've got to bring a partner on or a team and get them building on it and get me more out of the building and more of just like the face behind Atomic Fusion and the marketing, and or three, sell. Well, I didn't want to raise money. I didn't want to quit my job. I didn't have enough revenue yet to really pay people to come on board. I'm bootstrapping this, by the way. I'm fully bootstrapping. I started this with no money, so very doable for anybody who wants to do this. I've proven that. But so it just came to a part where I was like, I want these features people are asking for to get delivered. I want to get it to somebody that I feel can deliver them and spend the majority of their time on the product. And that's where Ranjet came in. I had a lot of offers. I had a lot of buyers interested, and a lot of them were, oddly enough, were like equity firms, like just crazy, like, hey, I want to buy this and then go find a bubble developer to scale it up. And I was like, well, that's not what I'm really looking for. I'm looking for like actual, like either a team or a solo builder that can dedicate 30 to 40 hours a week on this thing. So I guess, so to answer your question, John, it wasn't clear. Like the whole time it was gut wrenching for me. Even when me and Ranjet were going through the process, I was like, did I make the right decision? And I was getting DMs from people going, dude, you exited too soon. Like, all I can say is, yeah, no shit. But I don't have time. I don't have the time, and I can't focus on it. So it was just a distraction. And when it starts impacting my family, time and stuff, that's when I knew I had to. And I'm always going to build. I'm already working on something else, but these are things I'm working on something that's more feasible for me to maintain with my current lifestyle.
I think that the biggest thing that you've contributed, to the bubble community, aside from Atomic Fusion, or just the builder community in general, is that you've proven that this stuff is all doable, right? Within the time frame that would otherwise seem kind of insane, right? Like that's the big, like, kind of inspiring thing, I think, for most. It's like you can go into this with the mentality of, I'm gonna build and think about selling this in 6 months to a year. Whenever I reach that pivotal point, like you just said, like your priorities, like you were kind of balancing what your priorities are in your life. But I have control over this. I can sell at any time. I can say that, like, I'm going to put another 3 months into this and then get to that point. Like, you've shown us all that, which I think is really, really we haven't had a close connection to the person that's doing that. One of us, you know what I mean? It's like a one of us.
Yeah. And dude, I try to stay humble. Like, I take pride in that. It's like, I feel like I contributed to this community that's been really good to me. Like, most people, 98% of the people I speak to in the community have just been so welcoming and helping. And, I started at ground zero, just like everybody does, in no code. But I think the one takeaway from this is that, like, it's like, it's real. Like, it can have, like, you can do it. You just have to be patient, and you have to have focus and just drive it home. Because like I said, a full-time job, family, I got a daughter and a wife, and church and all that stuff. So it's like, you can do this, like, on a bootstrapper, like, beer budget. Like, you can absolutely do this. And I know there are some people in places of the world that's still even harder said than done, but I think there's avenues to ignite that and get people out there. If you've got the right mentality and the right drive, you can definitely do this. And I'm just regular old Joe, man. And I'm not young, man. I'm gonna be 45 in October. So it's like, I'm not some young, like, old developer or something like that just switched over to no code. I have a passion for building software, and I have a passion for design and things like that. So it's, I encourage anybody that wants to do this. You can do it. You can absolutely do this.
Anchor has a question here, but I'm not sure I understand it. Are these traffic are buying the paid plan, or just the curious buyer who are checking the platform? I'm not sure if you're talking about the buyer of Atomic Fusion, or can you clarify the question a little bit, Anchor? I want to ask it because I think it's a good one, but I'm not sure exactly how to word it.
I think I might know what he's saying. I know Anchor. We talk a bit. As far as, like, the traffic and the users, and free versus paid on the platform. The majority of the users on Atomic Fusion are still free plan users. They're not. A lot of them aren't paid users. So, and to answer the question, the traffic coming in, traffic is traffic, whether it's free or paid, it doesn't matter. Traffic is still traffic. So, if your question, Anchor, is, are the majority of the users paid or free? The majority of them are free. And that's going to be the case with any platform, unless you're just some massive, like, organization or some super dupe marketer that can navigate the waters of conversions. Then that's going to be the case anyway. There's a certain percentage that you want to target for your paid users, and I think Atomic Fusion's hit that target of that percentage of paid of total users overall, paid versus free. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
Anchor, let us know if that answers the question you were asking. I related to that. I remember so when you flipped on, you said something really interesting. We had a conversation kind of when you flipped on, or you turned off rather, like the free, not the free tier. I'm saying it wrong. When you flipped over, like, all right, these features are now going to be pro access, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a big decision for you, because you were like, oh man, you're worried about, are people just going to abandon it now? But you got the opposite of that. It was like, no one said boo, right? It was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense that he's charging for this now. Like, was that the, like, at what point did you make the decision, and like,
sure,
were you surprised by the reaction?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is key. This is a key question here, because I was super nervous to turn on paid, because I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to make this this amount of access free, and then if you want to do XX and X above this, you gotta pay, right? So when I turned that on, I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna turn this on, and people are gonna be like, F you, man, I ain't paying. This is just, I'm not gonna pay for this. Well, I wouldn't say the opposite happened, but it definitely was better than I thought it would be. You have to do that. You have to do that methodically. Like you have to be cognizant of what people will pay for the tool. You have to be cognizant of how much of your platform to give up as free and how much to not give up that's paid, right? So it's a juggle, and I was actually going to start working through that right before I decided to sell, is conversions and like, access. Like I had a lot of people say, hey, well, I can only create one repository and save one design to my UI locker, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's by design. Like if I didn't, at some point you have to have the put on the company hat and say, I'm not building for free. Like I'm building this to make money. Like don't be afraid to say that. You're trying to make a living, you're trying to build a product that's profitable. So at some point you have to have something that generates revenue to keep the product going, or you're just going to have to close the doors eventually. So very nervous to turn that on, but after I saw that people will gladly pay for something they want to use. Like, think of yourself. There's like 5 platforms that I pay for right now. Why? Because they give me a better chance to succeed in what I'm doing with Bubble and entrepreneurship, right? So if it helps my platform, particularly obviously geared towards Bubble developers, if it can help you get from X to Z in 5 minutes versus 4 hours, why would you not spend a measly $79 a year to be able to do that? And you have to think, my audience, these people, these developers are building multiple products and iterating and trying different ideas and spinning up new apps and just trying to navigate those waters. So speed to market is very important. So that's why I built Atomic Fusion, is because I wanted to be able to get products and ideas that I have to market quicker. And if I don't have to build a navigation 12 times or copy it from an old app to a new app, and like, then that was my whole thought process behind it. And yes, there's other products out there similar, made with frames. Awesome. Love the made with frame guys, Greg and James and Eli. I think now those guys are just awesome, right? I think there's different value in Atomic Fusion than what made with frames is, just because I think I'm offering, or now Ramjet Atomic Fusion is offering a wide variety of stuff, and then the ability obviously to save back to the extension and then put it back to another canvas. So there's some separation there, but yeah, man, paid, don't be afraid to do it. I'm just to sum that up, don't be afraid to do it. Turn it on, because if you're not making money, then you're not doing what you set your goal to be.
Yeah, I think that in the same vein as like put it out there too early. maybe
Mhm.
switch it on a little bit too early. I think you make a good point about being methodical about what parts of
Mhm.
your app are free versus monetized. That's probably an important decision that you shouldn't rush.
Mhm.
But I think more often than not, people are hesitant to turn on the paid feature because, oh, the app doesn't do enough. Oh, the app isn't pretty enough. Oh, the app doesn't have this feature. All right, those are the things I think that we as the developing side kind of get bogged down with, and just like, oh, maybe I'll just keep it free for
Mhm.
X number of
Yeah.
times. Uh, so
Yeah.
yeah, get it, flipping that mentality. If people are already using it and you know how they're using it, chances are
Mhm.
they're probably going to pay for it if you switch on the that paid plan.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought,
And it's key to track in your app and watch what people are doing. If you could see people using it, like I have things that I could look at and say, okay, well, this person just created 4 repositories and 10 components. They're probably going to be a paid user. They're
yeah,
probably going to want to convert. It's worth it to them. So you can see the daily active users, and those are key metrics. Like if you can see your daily and weekly active users and monthly active users, you can gauge whether you can flip on payment or not. I mean, you can basically say, I've got 100 people in here out of 1,000, and they're using it every day. So you can pretty much guarantee that those people are going to pay $79 a year or whatever your price is, unless they just literally don't have any money. But I would venture to say if they're building on Bubble or something, they've got $100 they could spare maybe a month if it makes their life better. The whole key behind this crap, John, is if you're not providing, and most people know this, if you're not providing any value to them, then they're not gonna pay, they're not gonna be a user, they're not gonna be a free user. It all comes down to value. All value.
I think the part that's most mysterious to me is how to price something like this, right? Like how to price it for sale. I know that the cost wasn't the only factor. I think probably just as much as what you wanted to sell it for was, will the person that takes this over extend and not just, extend the vision, right? Like it's kind of
Mhm.
like passing the torch essentially.
Yeah.
But how did you start to think about pricing this?
So how did I price it right? Um, I used a handful of things. I've had a few people reach out to me on this. Um, MRR, obviously, ARR, user base, how many users you actually have in the app. I looked at the active usage of the app, and then I also factored in my time spent on the app myself. Because and some people will be like, well, it all comes down to numbers, dude. I mean, it's like it is what it is. You're either getting 4x for this or you're not. But so those are kind of the key things that I used. And then I also factored in potential. So, I got so much authentic feedback about the potential of the product versus what the product currently is. Most people saw the potential and where it could be down the road, and it does cool things now. Don't get me wrong, it helps people. So I evaluated the potential of the product into the selling price as well. So, I mean, if you were to go build Atomic Fusion from scratch right now, dude, good luck. Because like messing with getting the Chrome extension and all that and the copy paste and all that stuff, it's like that stuff wasn't easy. So anybody that's buying this, and I think Ranjet's got a great deal, but anybody buying something like this, you're just expediting, and there's dollar value to buy. And then also factor in the big one is user base. Like Ranjet immediately is coming into X amount of users for Atomic Fusion and immediate access to a community that he doesn't have to go spend 7, 8, 9 months building up that following. I mean, think he had zero, right? Right. The comment was he had 0 Twitter followers. What are his chances of getting the following that I have now of Atomic Fusion in 3 or 4 months? It's worth to spend a little money to get to Z versus right smack in the alphabet. And so the to answer your question, short answer is it's hard to come up with that valuation. But I basically took the multiple of the MRR, factored in my time, what I felt the product could be and the user base, and those were kind of my key metrics.
Evan Dubs has an interesting question here. In retrospect, was there anything easy that you could have done to significantly increase the sell price?
Good question, Evan. Good question. Yeah, held on to it for probably another 6 months and added 2 more features and doubled the user base. I guess I wouldn't classify that as easy because
I was
that's
going to say easy is the operative word here.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's easy.
I wouldn't classify it as easy, but it would have been easier than the initial launch and getting it to where it is because I already have a user base and a following, and people are organically now starting on Twitter to say, hey, go grab this component I designed in my Atomic Fusion locker. So I was starting to get some of that. So it would have been easier, but not easy. You know what I mean? So I would have, yeah, if I could have, that's why people told me I exited too soon. They're like, dude, you exited too soon. You should have maybe held on to this for another year, doubled, tripled, quadrupled the user base, and I probably could have got 4 times the amount. But I just didn't have the steam, man. I ran out of steam with everything else I got going on in life. If I didn't have all that stuff, I for sure would have did that, and I may not even have exited then. I maybe would have kept growing it and freaking tried to get Bubble to buy this thing. I don't know, you know.
Anchor clarified what he was asking. The traffic you mentioned, specifically the traffic that you got from just listing on MicroAcquire, was that the traffic of was the traffic that you were referring to, was that people who were interested in the paid plan, or the potential buyers of Atomic Fusion?
I think both. I think both. I think it was both the buyer interest, just checking out what they may potentially be buying. So, and then I think there was actual people that are no coders and stuff looking to acquire stuff and things out there. So, you know, I had a handful of inquiries of people telling me I'm specifically looking to buy a no code product because they feel they could take it on and scale it. Whereas if it was code, they wouldn't be able to, they wouldn't know how to wrap their head around it. Right. So I think it's a little bit of both, Anchor. I think, but I from some of the metric or some of the stuff I was tracking when that was happening, some of those I think that were just buyers actually started like dabbling in Bubble and actually using it and converted to pay. So
unheard of. Yeah. Like, what other space would that happen in?
It's crazy, dude. Yeah. So it's like, you know, think about it. Why are they there? A lot of the people there to buy, they're not only there to buy just like a business or anything like that. They're there to buy a tool that they can build with and scale and make a business out of it, right? That's what Ranjet's doing. He bought it and he's like, dude, I'm going to scale this thing and make this my thing. This is going to be my baby now. So I'm super, super happy for him.
We got a few more questions here. Would it be known? Was it known? Well, there's actually a few questions on pricing, so maybe we should go back. Okay. I know I cut you off before.
Let's do it.
We got a couple. Was it known from the beginning that the plan would become paid? It's like the introduction of the Pro plan, I would imagine.
Yes. If you're going to build a SaaS or something like that you plan on taking to market, be 100% transparent out the gate. Like I made it very obvious. I at least think or attempted to make it very obvious that this is going to be a paid product. Like you'll be able to do small amounts of stuff on a free. It's a freemium, right? It's called freemium is the type of pricing that I'm doing. So be very clear. I made it known, I think, quite quickly that, hey, you're going to be able to do some of this stuff, but eventually you're going to be paywalled. And if you're going to want to continue to use this, you're going to have to pay. And I think I priced it right. I think it's like to the point where it's stupid cheap. I think I made it probably too cheap, but my build in public methodology was I want everybody to be able to use this. I don't want price to be an issue. Like I never wanted price to be an issue. And I had made special occasions for a couple of people that they validated. They just don't have money. They just can't spend money on anything other than maybe their $29 a month Bubble plan.
Yeah.
Fine, whatever, free. Here you go. Like I'm not trying to like make money off of everybody. I'm just trying to cover my expenses, make a little profit and do something. This was never meant to be a Microsoft or anything like that. It's a micro SaaS that helps you with specific stuff. So answering your question, yes, be very transparent with your pricing. You probably know that you're going to want to make money off of this. So just let people know. And that way it's not a shock when you flip it on, and it's way easier that way.
Cam Cop, the how you set the pricing of a price point for the product is hard to gauge. Sure, I think you may have answered this one already. But the annual cost of it, it's set up annually, right? And the how did you come? Like, it sounds like there was a few factors that went into how you prices, right? It was that you wanted to be really accessible, you wanted to cover your costs, but I think that very easily that perspective can change depending on what your end goal of the product is, right? Like, what are you trying to do with it? Why are you building this in the first place? I think the why is very important into all of these decisions. In your situation, it sounds like being accessible was a high priority. Not operating at a net loss was probably an important decision in that. And I also have like my question here is around like, did anyone complain about the price, or was everyone just like, that makes sense?
Yeah, man, this is all good stuff. So, well, let's go back to the pricing a little bit, and I'll try to make this shorter. But know your audience and price to your audience. You can probably gauge an idea who, does your audience have deeper pockets, or are they on beer budgets, bootstrap budgets? My audience is more than likely on bootstrap budgets. They're already paying for other SaaS products. Everybody's already trying to get the monthly nugget from you. And I realize that. Like, I didn't want to be just another guy getting your monthly nugget. So I factored those, I call them virtual demographics, into my decision to make it only currently $79 a month. Now, what did I factor into that? Yes, I need to cover my costs. So I need to cover what I'm paying on Bubble, like the Bubble professional plan, right? I need to cover the fees for my plausible analytics monthly. I need to cover my cost for Mailer Lite, because my mailing list blew up like super quick. So now I'm off of their 12,000 a month free tier onto their bigger tier so I can send emails to everybody, right? So there's reoccurring costs that start adding up onto you. So you need to factor that in at least with a 1 to 2 year roadmap or leeway, right? So you need to say, okay, if I have to scale up my Bubble plan by a certain amount of CPUs or to the next plan, and I need my I like to call them like Orbit type apps, like your Mailer program, your analytics program. If those need to go to next tier, I need to be able to cover those costs with the revenue I'm generating from the business, right? From the application. So I factored that in and said, okay, cheap on most of these things, and I don't think I'm going to scale over 5,000 users in the first year. So let's just, and some of it's throwing a dart at it a little bit. And to answer your question, John, I never had anybody complain about the price. Matter of fact, I had the exact opposite. I had people going, I can't believe you're offering this much value for this freaking cheap. What are you doing? Right? Now, I did have some people say, I don't get enough value out of the free plan. And I tweaked a couple little things, but I didn't want to get too deep into that. Like, my goal wasn't to continuously give free value. So if I did it over again, I would probably give slightly more value on the free side. But that's a fine line, because you'll get certain people out there that are smart enough to be able to basically game the platform to their advantage, to where they never have to pay, right? Like, you could go into Atomic Fusion right now and create one repo and one design, use it, delete it, put another one in there over and over again. But to me, you're just cheap ass, and you're wasting all your time because you want to spend $79.
Yeah.
That's not my user. Those aren't my user target. My user target are people that are serious about building, want to expedite their time, and use the tool. And most people will pay for that. But to your point, to your question, No, most people is like, dude, you should be at least $129 a year or something like that. And to add, I didn't want to do monthly plans because I think most people are tired of getting debited once a month out of their pocket. And then two, if you can just put a flat rate 129, you're locked in for a year, cancel if you want, you'll still have access for the full year. You don't have to renew if you don't want to. I think it just makes it easier. I mean, if you want a
Yeah,
monthly plan, just take my annual and extrapolate it out.
yeah, I'm seeing that more and more. The annual thing, and I prefer, as a user, I prefer it because I don't have to think about it for 12 months. I don't have to keep track like, oh, every month like this amount is coming is going to get charged. I like the app because it feels more like a flat fee that that
Mhm.
I don't then have to think about after I paid it.
Yeah, yeah. I,
Um,
I I think, John, just to put this in there, I think if you're looking at doing something like this, may 129. Like if I had to just drop something that I feel confident about now, 129 is a sweet yearly price. I pay that for an app called Brandbird that just makes, background images, makes your Twitter images look a lot better and stuff. It's just a very niched product. And I happily pay 129. I use that freaking thing every day. I mean, why wouldn't I?
magic number for all you listening,
Yeah,
120 a year.
129 is the magic number, and that's not just me. That's just what I'm seeing across the board for kind of micro SaaS type apps.
Right on. I've got a couple more questions here. Throw your questions in the chat now if you have any other ones. I'm gonna wrap up soon. Was the fact that it was built on Bubble a huge selling point for the buyer, or did it not matter? So does Renjet care that it was built on Bubble? Was that a deciding factor in his decision to purchase?
It absolutely did matter. Yeah, I don't, and I don't want to speak for Anjet, but what I gauge is he wouldn't have bought this if it wasn't built on Bubble because that's what he knows how to build it. I think he knows how to code a little bit too, and I think he can read JavaScript and he's a sharp dude, super sharp. But I highly doubt he would have bought if it was built on code or anything else. He was looking specifically for a Bubble app, and I think the market right now is still very narrow for people looking for no code apps to acquire, but I think it's slowly ticking up. And I think in about 2 years, a year, maybe less, you're going to see more of these platforms on people on MicroAcquire or Microns or any of these sites, tiny acquisitions, looking for specifically no code apps. I think that's just that market's going to grow. It's going to expedite. So yes, it does play into a factor of what you build on because even if you build it on code, some people may be looking for Node.js, JavaScript, or whatever. A lot of people that are on microcard don't give two shits either of what it's built on. They're looking to buy the business, they're looking to buy the user base, they're buying the validation and the idea. They're not buying the app. They're buying your engineering or efforts that you put in for the past 6 months to a year or whatever it is. That's really what they're buying.
Buying what you learned in those
Exactly. Yeah.
last
They're just throwing money at it and going from zero to hero,
yeah.
like in like it's painless when you do that, other than your wallet slider. Huge. Like even if you're not building, like quick note, if you're not building to sell, you should be building to sell, even if you think you're not going to sell it. And there's a lot of stuff that I've learned that will make your life a lot easier if you actually do sell. So, we should jam on that, and I'd be happy to do a regular thing with you, or just set up some ad hocs and do it. And hopefully, for those of you on the Twitch here listening, I hope you guys join back because I think we can get some more information talks going about all this stuff.
Right on, man. If you're watching this on YouTube, try and join the Twitch stream every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, twitch.tv/bubblehack. We want to get more of these conversations going and see what kind of questions people are having around finding their first 1,000 users. A lot of the content and Bubble stuff right now is focused on how to build, but there's very little people talking about how to reach your audience. And I think that's what we want to focus on here in this stream. So Neil, thanks again, man. We're going to do this again. And I'll catch you later.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks everyone for tuning in.